Hi, I'm Karla Bogart. I studied the Certificate 3 in Performing Arts and I graduated in 2015. So I've always wanted to be an actor, but I took a different path in life and got to one day when I thought if I don't follow my passion, then it's never going to happen. Before I did the Certificate 3, I did an introduction to acting because this was a completely new world for me. And that really opened my eyes up to the possibilities and also the fact that you need to be trained as an actor. You need to have some sort of background. If it's not in terms of your actual acting skills, definitely in terms of what it's like on a set environment, what the roles of various people are, who you should be listening to, who you should not be listening to, a lot of the preparation work that goes into it. There's a lot that you can scratch the surface of and then really dig deeply into that. Training for me was a no-brainer, and it was, I suppose at that point, a little bit more of an introduction to acting, but we covered a lot of ground in that Certificate 3. So the Certificate 3 covered a lot of different techniques, and out of that and then out of various projects, you distill that information and I suppose work out what's best for you. And not every technique will be right for every actor. So that's something that you need to go through and you need to be exposed to work that out. I think what I really enjoyed was the connection with the other students, and so all the, I'll say, games that we played, all the interactions in terms of warm-ups and those sorts of things, identifying yourself within the space and wandering around and becoming aware of the different textures and the sounds and all those sorts of things going on. That was I always enjoyed that because it was a real let go of the world. You are now in this space and this is where you need to focus. So that for me was probably my favourite time, is spending time with all the other students and learning together. When I finished in 2015, one of the biggest things I struggled with was where to next. And so I joined a number of groups on Facebook and watched out for auditions, but I also approached some of the film schools, and the CIT was one that was running their, might have been Certificate 4 in film. And it was a lovely lady, Tamsin Nugent, who was teaching there, and she got a lot of volunteer actors on board to help the students with their scripts and to act in a lot of their assessment projects. So that was one of the things that I did. From there, I gathered a little bit of a network and just started auditioning. Whenever I saw an audition notice, I would turn up and be there. Through that process, I met a group of young students at the University of Canberra and helped them with their final year project. And then from there, that network just kept growing, and I actually started to get requests to participate in short films, so completely skipping the audition process. In terms of the short films that I've been on, I've played a number of different roles. So I did have a couple of opportunities to work on Total Control and also The PM's Daughter. That gives you a completely different perspective because you are going from a small film set where you're really observing and learning and being immersed in the whole process of what it is to make a film. And you are getting pretty much, if you've got a good director, you're getting one-on-one attention with that director in terms of your performance. You go to a larger film set and it is a lot more compartmentalised and you're not probably seeing the machinations as much. So my advice would be to get on as many short film sets as you can, professional or not, it doesn't matter. They're usually a smaller crew where you can learn more than you would on a large set. From there, I then did some advertisements and some, if you like, corporate videos. I stepped into those after understanding what the environment would be like. So when I turned up, I was able to ask questions such as, where's my mark? What's my framing? Where do you want me looking? What am I emoting here? So I was able to add value when I was on those particular sets rather than wasting time with the director, having him or her or they tell me what I needed to be doing. I could ask the immediate questions up front and get a better performance quite soon after that. It is essential that you get involved in the community because it's a small filmmaking community, so everybody knows everybody. So if you can turn up to either something run by the CIT, the University of Canberra, or AIE, then that will start your network almost immediately. Since I graduated, I've thrown myself into every acting opportunity that I could, and I've continued my training, and I've observed the roles of people on a film set, and it's an area of interest for me, the whole filmmaking process, not just the acting process. When I first started as an actor, I was given quite a number of varying roles, and then as I progressed, I noticed that those roles were being limited, if you like, to that of mother. Can you come and play the mum? Can you, just cook? Can you cook the dinner and just ask these few questions? And I understand that because that is the world that we live in. But I thought there's got to be more to these roles. The mother isn't just somebody that cooks dinner. They've usually come from a job or they've got something else that's important in their life to them. So I wanted to really take charge of my future and develop a role that I wanted to play in a story that was unique and intriguing. And that's what led me to my project. It's called Misconception. It's actually inspired by Elizabeth Holmes. She's a tech billionaire. She created an empire, it was an empire, based on a lie, that she could test one drop of blood and tell you what your medical diagnosis was. And she had people like Bill Gates invest in her. So there's this whole idea of manipulation and the drive in terms of capitalism and power and all those sorts of things. I wanted to bring a really human element to my story. And so it's about CRISPR, and it's about the modification of embryos at that embryonic stage. And it's getting rid of hereditary disease from an embryo. So say, for example, Huntington's disease, which my character has in the short film. At the embryonic stage, CRISPR can actually find that defect in the DNA, cut it out, repair it, and that generation of children or that next generation of families will not have Huntington's anymore. Now you can imagine the ethical dilemmas involved in this. So the scientific world is completely against it at this stage. And we're not allowed to modify embryos. There was a Chinese scientist who did, who made twins resistant to HIV, and he was jailed for 3 years, and there was an absolutely massive outcry against this. It's a really interesting area because where do you stop? If you're modifying an embryo, what if you have somebody come along and say, well, I've got 2 children and they both have blonde hair and I'd like a brunette, please? So it's a fine line in terms of the theme of my story, which is humanity versus science. Where do we draw that line? You know, we've got a world and an environment that we'd like to be perfect in terms of people not having to suffer, and yet we've got a scientific environment that needs to set ethical guidelines and boundaries. So my story is about Claire, who watched her sister pass away from Huntington's disease. She has it herself. She's not yet affected. She wants to modify embryos to remove the disease and to take it out to market. She claims that the science is ready for it, that all her testing is perfect. Her professor is not quite so sure. And so Claire takes things into her own hands and does what she thinks is necessary to bring her technology to market. It's a really interesting story. We've got permission to film at the Australian National University in their genomics laboratory, which is amazing. So the set design, there's not much that needs to be done in terms of that environment. It looks perfect. We've also got permission to film in the boardroom of an accounting firm in Kingston. And once again, perfect backdrop. And I've got permission to film at the CIT in one of their sustainable houses for scenes between Claire and her sister, who will be played by Louise Ellery, who's an ex-Paralympian. I've made sure that I've been very inclusive in the casting process, but I've also really had to think about the model that I want to use in terms of the film process, and that is to bring on people that have a lot of experience in their particular field, and then get somebody else to almost shadow them that haven't had the opportunity to work on a film set before. It's sort of like a mentorship program, if you like, on set. Like, part of it is training for some of those people. So it's a skeleton of professional crew, then supported by people who are more than beginners. They're emerging artists. And I'm hoping that this helps bring the community together, the filmmaking community together. I'm hoping also that it gives them some exposure in terms of what their skill set is, and in terms of our networks too, that they're then picked up on future jobs and opportunities both within Canberra and also externally to Canberra. Actor training is essential if you're wanting to become an actor. It's definitely the first step that you need to become a professional actor. You always need to, like any profession, you need to be trained in what it is that you're doing. You also need to continue your further education. But to step out in the world without training, it's going to be a pretty tough environment for you. It's going to be a long road. So my advice would be definitely get training. It'll open your eyes to what's involved. It'll also give you the idea of what things you love about being an actor, the potential that you've got for being an actor. It also gets you involved with other people in the industry, which is so important. You can talk the same language. You can do projects together. You can travel and see shows together, movies. It's a no-brainer to train in the area that you want to become an expert in and have your career in. I would say that I'm a really empathetic actor. And I think that's why I'm drawn to Meisner-based acting. I love the connection with other actors, and I love bringing whatever it is that's special about that character and the nuances about that character. I love bringing that to life and to screen. I've got a couple of roles actually that I will mention. One of them, I don't say a lot in it, but I'm stranded out at night, stopped on the road, and somebody's standing in front of me on the road, but I actually can't see them because of all the lighting. And it's the idea of being able to emote and portray the story without the words or without so many words that I loved about that role. The other role that I really, really enjoyed was actually mainly improvisation, and it was a comedic role. And I don't get a lot of comedic roles. I get I get typecast as, nurse, professional, mum, that sort of thing. And this particular role, I was a detective, and I had to come up with the character myself. And so I drew a lot from Melissa McCarthy and her role in Bridesmaids. And I just got to bounce off the other actors, and it was a lot of fun and really, really rewarding. I think in terms of roles that really resonate with me, it is the future role of Claire that I'll play, and that will no doubt be my absolute favourite role. I'm already loving her character. In terms of acting as a career, be determined, be resilient. But ultimately, I mean, I've had a lot of feedback from people in terms of the project that I've developed and that I'm working on. And their comments to me are, you've been so determined and you've worked so hard, and this is something that you've been doing for the last at least 2 years. So it's not a quick overnight thing. You have to keep working at it. And I think that's one of the things that you need to be as an actor. You have to be strong and you just have to keep going, and you cannot take it personally if you don't get a role. It could be that your hair is 1 inch too long. It's something as simple as that. So you just have to keep going and don't undermine yourself and your skills, because if you have determination, you'll get there in the end.